Hey guys, welcome to episode 4. It's been a while, I've been traveling and I'm in Portugal right now and had some other stuff to do with, but in this video we're going to look at the 44Bs and understand like those prospectus filings and like what they mean. We're just going to look at these three, I guess the more common important ones. There's also the 44B too, but I'm not going to go over that. You can just Google about it. You rarely ever see it, it's kind of irrelevant. So the 44B3, it's really just to amend a prior filing. Usually doesn't mean much, and I'll show you an example of that with Carvana. The B4 is just, usually giving details after the pricing of something. The IPO or S1, showing an example of that with PWM. Like I said, it's always after PR, so kind of irrelevant as well. And the 44B5, which is the most interesting one because this one can be before PR as well as after. This is where they'll disclose an ATM. Sometimes they can give more details than they did in the PR, etc. So I'll show you a big example of that with BBY. Carvana had 3 and 5, MVIS had 5, and PWM had 4. So Carvana first. So Carvana the other day, obviously they had earnings, and first thing they did was the PR with the earnings, and then after that they did a 44B3. Now here they stay right here, just amends, blah blah blah, and then here it is, just to update the section entitled description of capital stock, which would have been in the shelf, and they do that there, so it doesn't mean anything. And then these guys, they actually put out a PR first. And if you go in the AK, the first page really of it was on other stuff. So if you weren't fast to read or you didn't Command F, you probably could have missed it. But if you just search up at the market, you'll see they mention it there. That's actually terms, like read the notes, that kind of pretty much prefaces that they would have started the ATM soon. But you'll see that they also announce it down here. So a good habit, obviously, if you think a company might put out an ATM and they put out a PR, just to go in, just Command F if it's not obvious. You never know, you might see something better than someone else, faster. And then after they filed a 44B5, and here's just the details of the ATM. Yeah. So I would also recommend actually going back to that AK and reading the terms that I quickly highlighted regarding them starting it and whatnot. It's just interesting to do, but I'm not going to go over it. So next example is a 424B5 example in MVIS. So these guys filed an S3ASR in the after hours, no details really at all. And then right after that, filed the 424B5. So then you know it's a shelf for $75 million, but nothing else. Sometimes they'll put an ATM right here, but they didn't in this case. And then they announced a proposal of public offering. I can show you that as well here. No details either. And then the next morning, they withdrew it, and then 2 days later they filed another 44B5, but in this time you'll see it was an ATM sales agreement here at the market. Okay. Usually if they say we offer and sell shares from time to time, distribution agreement, blah blah, it's an ATM. All right. And then, then after they put out the PR, so kind of the opposite of Carvana. Right, then PWM, I see this all the time, a 44B4 will drop and people will short it, not realizing it doesn't mean anything. And here was a great example of it. So they IPO'd 2 days, IPO'd and 2 days after they filed the 44B4, and like it's just the disclosure of the terms of the IPO, 1 million shares, nothing else. I mean, if people shorted thinking they were going to offer, I mean, a bit retarded, and honestly, probably deserve to lose. Good learning lesson for them. I see this all the time. Even intraday, like some company will drop in, people swipe it down, don't know why. Right. Now this one is going to be a bit confusing, and I'll try to go slowly, and we're going to go over BBY. So just to quickly show what I'm talking about, we'll start with the chart. So going to be going over first in the afternoon on this day here, right? So what BBY did is they announced and the reason why is I'm going to go over because you could have actually gotten a lot of information out of this 44B5, and I didn't really see many people talking about it, only a couple, and it was quite confusing. So yeah, so initially BBY, they put out a PR of a proposed offering. I'll show that. These two. Yeah, so here it is, 225 million. So the only thing you could have really gotten it from this is the amount, an idea of the amount. and it was going to be convertible preferred stock. So, you know, convertible preferred stock on, anything, I always think it's a bit sus when you say convertible on a toxic name because you just know they're going to do like some bad agreement. But either way, that you didn't really get much out of it, and it's kind of hard to trade off of that, apart from the fact they're going to offer. And then about an hour or so later, they filed or 30 minutes, sorry, they filed a 44B5, and that's what we're going to go over first. So whenever you just see this much nonsense on the first page, it's kind of toxic, blah, blah, blah. And then these are the terms, so we know they're going to do convertible preferreds. And the way I got the reason I got the $10,000 value is if you look here, they announced in the first line the Series A preferred. I can zoom in. Stated value of 10,000 per share, all right? And they did warrants to buy common stock and warrants to purchase convertibles, okay? And the first thing we're going to look at is the details of these convertible preferreds because that's the main thing, that's the most important. So what I like to do is just go to the offering section. Sometimes they don't announce like the best way here and you have to look elsewhere, but you can just get a quick idea of the details of it. And I just got a quick summary here. So it's initially convertible into shares of common stock at a fixed conversion price, which is not announced yet, and or at any time at the option of the holder of their shares, they can choose to convert at the lowest of either I, the applicable conversion price, which we don't know yet, or B, the alternate conversion price. Okay, this is the key thing, and we're going to look at that right now. So on page 1, you can see that they say that the alternate conversion price, I can actually show you that. Or I don't know if it was page 1, but I got this from there anyways. You can just take a look after. So the alternate conversion price is the greater of either X, the floor price, or Y, the lowest of VWAP of the common stock during the 10 consecutive days prior and including the trading of the applicable conversion notice. Okay, so either saying it's either going to be a percent of VWAP in the average VWAP in the last 10 days, or the floor price, whichever one is higher, right? And the whole reason for the floor price is to stop like a death spiral, right? So it gets to a point where they can't, keep exponentially converting more. And they announced that this floor price is a calculation I got. So they announced what you can do is go into this section of, you can just usually like search up like quotes floor price and they'll define it. And here you can see they say the price that is 20% of the lower of the closing price of the common stock as of the trading day ended immediately prior to the blah blah blah. So in this case, this day, 20% of that day, or whichever is lowest, right? The lower of Y, the average of the prior 5 days. So in this case, I got the value 72 cents. I might be off by a cent or two. Like I kind of did it quickly, but let's just keep that in mind, 72 cents, right? And the way I got that is because, the average of the last 5 days here. Okay, so I guess this is correct maths I did. It is 72 cents, all right? So then we know that the ultimate conversion price is either going to be A, 72 cents, or Y, a percent of VWAP, okay? And this is where we can kind of predict like what fair value is and like what you can guess they're going to price the offering at based on the alternate conversion, right? And since we know that Y is going to, be a value of 100% or less, I mean, I don't think anyone would be buying terms where they would be constantly buying above the offering price. Let's just use like 100%, which is likely the worst case scenario for the investor of the shares. And then if you just get the average of the last 10 days, and then you put 100% onto that. This was what I meant by the quick maths I did. I just got around 260. So basically I just got like the average VWAP price in the last 10 days and just got the average of that, and it was 260. But likely they would do a discount to that, which is why this was such like an interesting deal. So, you can kind of guess 260 is like the upper limit of where they would price it at, if that makes sense. Now, the reason why it's so toxic is because the lower this thing goes, as long as there's a discount to the VWAP, or even if they don't, the owner of the preferred will always like have a discount to the market or be able to convert shares at a lower price, right? So the lower the stock goes, the lower the VWAP is, the more shares convert from the preferred into common. Okay, so let's say Hudson Bay bought into, but let's say whoever would have been bought 1,000 preferred at 10,000 per share. That's $10 million. And let's say the conversion price is 260. That would be 3.8 million shares. But then say it's a lower price, the conversion price all of a sudden a week later is $2. Then that same 10 million converts to 5 million. And the lower it goes, the more exponential death spiral like it gets, up until it gets to the floor price of 72 cents. And then the next morning, they announced a PR with the terms. So this is kind of irrelevant, but you can see here 23,000 preferred, 84,000 preferred warrants to buy preferred, and then warrants to buy common. So the most important thing is these preferred. So that's how you can get the average price that they paid, right? Because it was $10,000 and they bought 23, so 2.36. And with that, if we know that the average VWAP from the last 10 days was 260, it was around that, I don't know exactly, then that's how you know what the discount is, right? So you know that they're gonna be able to convert at 92% of the VWAP value, if that makes sense. Later in the day they announce it, they put out a 424, what was it? I can't remember, but later in the day they put out a PR with the actual terms, because you can see in this one they don't really have anything. But you could have calculated, the percentage discount, with that information, right? So I mean, just with those 23,000 preferreds, that's 100 million shares at 236, right? And let's say they exercised all those warrants at the same $10,000 price. It was actually ended up being 9,500, but you wouldn't know that. That would have been 350 million shares. So you can kind of get the idea. Like the lower this goes, it's a shit ton of shares that can convert. It's just very death spiral like. And that's pretty much it. And you can kind of see here it is. So let me just do like a demonstration. So say that's the stock price, or yeah, say the stock's there, and then this is the 92% of the stock price. You can see as this goes down, so does this, and they're always going to be at a discount, Sorry, this goes down, then this. So that's why they can just, keep selling more shares and always making money. Hopefully that made sense. BBY is a bit of a tough example, but that was probably one where you could have gotten, as you can see, could have gotten a lot of information from just the day before, and I don't think many people realize that, and that was a very toxic example. So hopefully this helped. Any questions, let me know. Thanks.